Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. You notice my voice is a little bit off today. Been fighting this darn cold for a couple of weeks, but as the best of you will know, nothing shuts Silverlight up. Actually, I've been kind of wondering about the Ukraine special military operation, as it's called. What was and is the end game? Let's put ourselves not necessarily in Vladimir Putin's shoes, although as the leader he takes center stage. But the fact is, a war is not just prepared. In the United States, the president has the power to deploy troops, but to go to war, he has to go through Congress. And even though he has the power to deploy troops, he or she, I should make this relevant for the future, the President of the United States still has to talk to his generals, his advisors, and all that sort of stuff before they can decide they're going to make an airstrike on this compound in Syria or wherever the heck it is. Wherever the heck it is, they're deciding to do whatever they're doing today. Russia's very similar. Russians are not as used to freedom as we do, and to be honest, they're not really that far evolved from the old Soviet system where the reigning commissar would be the one to say, we are going to war in Afghanistan, these are our objectives, you have this many troops, this many helicopters, this many planes, go in and make it so. We know at the beginning of this war, Vladimir Putin and his advisors and his chiefs of staff and his advisors and whoever the heck else were sitting in a room and they ironed out, this is what we are planning to accomplish. Now my question is, how are things evolving? We've already seen a mini revolution from the Werner Group, however the Russians pronounce it. It's kind of funny when you hire mercenaries and you don't pay them, they don't want to work for you anymore. That was swept under the table, but apparently there are other groups who are now saying, hey, we don't want to be here either. Remember, Russia for a while was conscripting people, not only citizens off the street, but also they're giving commuted sentences to those who are joining out of prison. The problem with prison, and I've actually done some study on Russian prisons and their gangs and underground, etc. Yeah, there's a reason you don't mess with the Russian mafia. Let me put it that way. But the problem with prisoners is they retain a lot of their ties to their old gangs, prison blocks, all that sort of thing. So you're stuck with two choices. Either you spread them around your forces, which means that mafia, that gang, whatever it is, now has an in every single division that you have, or you put them all together, which is, unfortunately, just giving a gang guns and an opportunity to commit war crimes. Because gangs, as much as we like to imagine they have a sense of honor, the mafia, the yakuza, whatever it is, they're still gangs. And they're there not because of any altruism, they're there because they want to get out of jail. I suspect that the original idea was to conquer Ukraine within a month or two and have the troops home by Christmas. Yes, that old chestnut. We do love that. Have the troops home by Christmas. World War I, World War II. It's all been done before. It'll all happen again. But it was pretty obvious early on that the Ukrainians were simply not going to give in. First of all, the terrain is not very good for conquest. That's just simply the way the things are when you get into Eastern Europe and Western Asia. The terrain sucks. But they would have known that last year at this point. Hey, this is not going the way we want. Putin seems determined, him and his advisors. I actually don't think it's Putin's decision anymore. I think he's still a figurehead. He still holds power, but he's been forced to compromise because this operation's going so bad. When he's turning to North Korea and Iran and asking them to give him shells and drones and stuff like that, I think it cost him quite a bit. And now, even though he's still at the top of the heap, unfortunately, the heap is not so well stocked as it was before. There's two possibilities about where they are going. One, they're somehow husbanding their resources into one massive push to drive the Ukrainians into the ground. The only problem with this is the Russian economy is not what it used to be. Like, there's several states with a larger economy than Russia as a whole country, as that whole giant country. Because Russia still has not been properly developed. It doesn't have roads, it doesn't have infrastructure. Well, it does, just not what it needs. Moving military hardware around is actually quite intensive. And they're the only ones that can do it. The Russian rail gauge is not compatible with anything in Europe, so they can't even bring trains from Europe. They can't rent them or anything else because it doesn't work on their rails. This benefited them in World War II, and it's logical to want to keep it around as a defensive measure. So if that's scene number one, manufacture them into the ground while Ukraine gets Western aid, that's a lousy situation. Situation number two. This one's a little more interesting because of the sheer hubris involved in it. They're going to grind Ukraine down until the West gets tired of supplying them with weapons. This is a disturbing possibility. But even now, when we're sending them brand new fighter jets, brand new tanks, all this sort of thing, the West has primarily forgot about Ukraine. Yes, it's happening. Oh, they're holding their own. We're doing fine. We don't need to worry about them. Without Western support, Ukraine is open and honest. Yeah, we would crumble without all the stuff that we're getting from the West. So that could be a factor in Russian policy. Remember, Western politicians have about a 4-year vision down the road. They don't do anything that their potential replacement could take credit for. That's why getting big things like stadiums, electrical generating stations, dams, stuff that will take a long time, either gets approved at the beginning of an administration or it's left to languish because, like I said, they don't want to move all the barriers, push through the budget and everything so that their successor can come along and have their photograph taken in front of whatever marvel they've achieved. So realistically, the Ukraine war has about 1.5 years left in it on the Ukrainian side. Although who knows, the Republicans are usually pretty pro-war, so we won't know until the day of. There's a third possibility. Declare peace. Now, there's ways to do this without actually winning the war in a military sense. This whole time, Vladimir Putin has been able to say at any point he chose, yep, we accomplished our objectives in this operation, this special military operation, so we're going to call it off. Deal. Peace on all sides, and Ukraine would look very bad for turning it down. Anybody who offers peace kind of gains that initiative in the negotiations. So for Russia to do it, it's possible. Now, there would be a certain loss of face, just like in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, where the United States declared they won the war and we're at peace. Well, things didn't go quite the way that they intended. So there is a risk, and Ukraine, who has been invaded twice in the past 10 years, is probably going to become a little bit of a military powerhouse in the region. Probably going to join NATO. They're probably going to be lobbying for all sorts of special weapons, platforms, and whatever else, because after all, we fought Russia twice in 10 years. This is not a very good deal for anybody. But right now, I think it's the only way Russia, if they care, if they have any concern whatsoever for the lives of their citizens and soldiers, that would be the best option. Now, the fourth option, Ukraine invades Russia. And I'm not talking the former Ukrainian territories that were taken 10 years ago, but rather I'm talking they invade Russia proper. The whole regions that Russia sees, that's a finicky one too, because there's a majority Russian population, actual Russian people, as compared to Ukrainian people. So even that hostility, I'm going to let it fly for now because, yeah, it's payback for two wars that Ukraine never wanted. But if they go into Russia, yeah, want to talk about political support evaporating, they cross that border, it's all gone. Now, curious thing that I predicted that's now happening, but it's not being talked about in the news. Remember last year, and I was talking about how Ukraine was Africa's breadbasket? They're the ones sending food to all, like your Ethiopia, your Sudan, all these nations that traditionally have famines. Well, guess what? Ukraine can't plant as many crops this year. It's awfully tough to plant crops when there's bombers going overhead every day. This is understandable. Ukraine, what food they have, they need to feed their soldiers and their families and everything, because during war, you expend more calories. Whether you're at the front line trying to dodge artillery bombs, or whether you're behind the lines working as much as possible so that way you can keep the lights on, you can keep the ammunition flowing. Whatever it is that you do, you still need more calories. So instead of a normal family meal, people are eating more in Ukraine. And have you noticed what's popped up on TV and YouTube and whatever other channels? Right, pictures of people being given a bag of rice and in that Ethiopia, Sudan, that kind of region. And there's a woman crying because she's so happy because now they can eat again and stuff like that. Why did this happen? Because of the Ukrainian war, exactly like I predicted. I don't like saying I told you so, but I'm saying, how is this not being associated? The media is doing it on purpose. They're making it seem like the two are not connected, but they are intimately connected. Like I said, you can't really plant crops when there's bombers going over every day. Because they can and do lighten their loads. They drop their bombs somewhere just to get rid of them. And unfortunately for the civilians who are in charge of the food, be it a mega corporation or a farmer, you want to get your leg blown off or your life ended. That's just simply the way things are. People are dying outside of this conflict on other continents. It's all because the Russians are still trying to achieve something that they can declare, that's our victory, let's get out of there. So, what option do you think it is? Option 1, option 2, option 3, or option 4? Personally, I'm wondering if there isn't another Russian revolution on the way. The Russians don't The Russians have always been a peculiar people. Not in the fact that they're weird, but they've learned over so many centuries of repression that you don't challenge the boss unless you know that you can outnumber him. And this is what's happening on Russian social media and even on the media right now. It's no longer being called a special military operation. They're admitting it's a war. No doubt about it. And it's straining their economy. The Russian people are going hungry as well. We're experiencing price fluctuations, but so are they. And you know what? The Russian people themselves, perfectly nice, good people, friendly, welcoming, you name it. But they just happen to have spent a few hundred years with changing rulers, with changing titles. So they're always waiting. Okay, when this guy's gone, we know the next guy's coming. So, and I say guy on purpose because the Russians are still somewhat behind us as far as cultural sensitivity. Some people think that's an advantage. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be a female Russian president, prime minister, whatever it is, for quite some time. There's not even one in the succession at the present time. Now, I have to say this again. The Silverlight Show does not promote violence of any kind. So I'm hoping it can be a velvet revolution. Something where Vladimir Putin's heart grew 3 sizes that day, and he decided that he was going to go out and, make peace throughout the world. That's my hope. I've been hoping that for a long time now. A long, long time. But we'll have to see. How this happens in a year, don't know. All those things could happen. And you know what? The war could still go on. Remember, the first Russian Revolution in World War I, they were determined to continue the war. It was only the communists who came in as communists. They were totalitarians under the guise of communism. But anyways, the so-called communists were the ones that ended the war. So we really have no guarantees about a new government changing anything about their strategy. Those generals will still be in place. It's awfully hard to kick out a general, especially when you're the new kid on the block trying to figure things out. The advisors who believed this was a good idea will still probably be there. And you know what? The troops will still be there on the ground, and it takes a lot of effort to withdraw them safely and successfully. Here's hoping everybody comes home alive and with all their health intact, although that's not going to happen. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share. Don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of every new show that we set out. And we hope you have a fantastic day.